Vice Chair Levere,
Here.
Commissioner Brogy, Commissioner Chavez, Commissioner Crosswhite,
Here.
Commissioner Enegren,
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Gorell,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Judge,
Here.
Commissioner Long, Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner McQueen-Lejeune,
Here.
Commissioner Parvin,
Here.
Commissioner Tremblay, Commissioner White,
Here.
and with us today we have representing Commissioner Roberts, Marlon Regisford with District 7 Caltrans Director.
Here.
Good morning,
Thank
sir.
you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hey, thank you very much. This takes us to item number 4, public comments on items not on the agenda. This is an opportunity for people to speak about items that would be under the purview of this commission but are not agendized for action this morning. I don't have any speaker cards, but if anyone would like to come forward and speak, we'll have you fill one out later. Okay, not seeing anyone. We will move to the next item on the agenda. Item number 5, Caltrans report. It's your turn, sir.
Well, thank you for the time, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the time to speak. Obviously, my name is Marlon Regisford. I'm the Deputy District Director for Planning, Local Assistance at Caltrans District 7. I'm here on behalf of Director Gloria Roberts today. She does give her regards. She was not able to make it. She loves VCTC, but she wasn't able to make it today. I just want to mention just briefly that I am very happy to support VCTC in all efforts moving forward. Obviously, I'm the planning side of the project development process, so I'm very much focused on the early engagement and project initiation and all of our local projects, supporting all of our regional and local partners. Do have some just brief items that I can share with the board, and I know that we've shared an update with the committee as well. We do have our active transportation program that we are ramping up for, and other state-funded competitive programs. We know that in March, the ATP Cycle 7 call for projects will be announced. This will be at the March 21st CTC meeting, so just FYI. And we are looking for any partnership opportunities with local agencies, not just for active transportation program, but for other SB1 programs. So if anyone or any cities, local partners are interested in partnerships with Caltrans, we know that there are some that have already indicated partnership requests. We're very happy to support that. So just want to share that opportunity, and if there's anything that I can support the board with as well, I'm happy to do that. So that concludes my just brief remarks. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission for our Caltrans representative? Not seeing anyone. Thank you very much, sir. This takes us to item number 6, Commissioner Executive Director reports. Do commissioners have any VCTC business they would like to report out on? Vice Chair?
Thank you. And just wanted to let everyone know, myself, Chair McDonald, Commissioner McQueen-Lejeune, and Commissioner Johnson all serve on the Gold Coast Transit District Board. And we had our reorganization meeting in December, and this week we have some new leadership. Commissioner Johnson is the new chair. Commissioner McQueen-Lejeune is the new vice chair of Gold Coast. So I think it's great that the 4 of us kind of have that crossover, since it's so important that the agencies work closely together, and just wanted to recognize Mr. Johnson and Ms. McQueen-Lejeune as the new leadership on the Gold Coast Board.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Erickson, it's to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair McDonald, and Happy New Year to all of the commissioners. It's great to see such a strong turnout on the first meeting of the new year. And I've spoken to a few of you. We even had a very small, low traffic volume this morning. I'm not sure exactly why, but we won't complain about getting here a little bit earlier than usual. I Wanted to note, I have my executive director's report in front of you and wanted to just touch on a few of the items. First off, we're really happy to report that VCTC's Youth Ride Free program, which is just a few years old, provided just over 1 million free rides last month. And this benefits all the transit operators in Ventura County, especially Gold Coast, the largest operator. And as a reminder, this program was based on the state cap and trade funds, the LC top funding, and the program, it's fair to say, is exceeding our expectations. And along with the College Ride program, is helping lead the ridership recovery here in Ventura County, and also similar programs are helping other transit agencies across the state and across the country. Additionally, pleased to report that the California Transportation Commission approved an allocation of active transportation, ATP funds, totaling more than $6 million to the County of Ventura to begin construction in the El Rio Pedestrian Improvement and Safe Routes to School project. So the El Rio project was Ventura County's first statewide selected ATP project, and reflective of our partnership with Caltrans. This much-needed project will, be underway, and we're hopeful to achieve more ATP funding in the future. As you all know, we had a banner year for grant making last year, especially for state grants, and we're hoping to continue that trend in 2024. And then finally, VCTC submitted its SB 125 allocation package to the California State Transportation Agency, CalSTA, that was approved by the Commission at your December meeting. This was nearly $100 million of transit capital and operations funding that obviously will help all of our operators and help lift Ventura County's transit going into this next year. We're still in recovery, really, from the ridership losses from the pandemic, but reflective of, I think, the partnership we have with all the operators, we are, I think, making progress, certainly making as much progress as any other transit agency in terms of transit recovery in the state. And I just want to note and thank Claire Grasty, Transit Director, and her team for putting this package together. It was a lot of work over the holiday period, and as the former transit director, it's work I would have been doing, so I'm grateful for that too. But with that, I just wanted to say myself and the whole team at VCTC are very excited for this new year and the opportunity it presents, as well as the challenges that we'll tackle. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for our manager or executive director? Commissioner White.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank the staff and thank Martin and Claire and all the staff for writing these grants. It brings in a ton of money that we probably wouldn't be getting if they didn't send out those grants. As a former grant writer, I know how difficult it is to get money from anybody. Actually, it's really hard to get money from my wife, but that has nothing to do with it. But it's so important to get money from not only the state, but also the federal government. So I really appreciate the staff working so hard and getting money and keeping us going. So thank you very much, staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I want to take a second and recognize a Christmas card that I got, and I believe all the commissioners got, from Bob and Susan Jolly. And they've spoken here a few times about the Fillmore issue with the train cars. They sent each of us a very pleasant letter thanking us for our efforts and staff efforts in resolving some issues out there and moving forward. So I thought it was very pleasant of them to take the time and send that letter. And again, it was a very pleasant letter. I enjoyed it. And so I just want to thank the Jollies on record and say thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Takes us item number 7, additions or revisions to the agenda. Do the commissioners have anything they would like to see changed or added to our agenda? Seeing none. Consent calendar. All matters listed under consent are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one vote. If there's anything that needs to be discussed, we will pull it out individually. Mr. Mattis, you have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just recommend that the commission, when you adopt the minutes, in the draft minutes for the meeting in December 1st, under the general counsel's report, the commission may recall that one public speaker spoke at the end of the last meeting as part of public comments because he did not speak at the beginning. So we would just recommend that you move his comments up to the public comments section in the final version of the minutes.
Okay. Do any commissioners wish to pull any items for discussion? If not, and a motion would be in order. I'm sorry, I had a senior moment for a second. Okay, Commissioner Engler,
Second.
as amended?
Second.
Second, who is the second? Okay, Commissioner Judge. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Broggie? Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Enegren?
Yes.
Commissioner Engler?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorell?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Judge?
Yes.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner McQueen-Lejeune?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Tremblay? Vice Chair Levere?
Yes.
Chair McDonald?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Commissioner White?
yes,
My apologies.
that's all right.
We're almost batting 1,000 today, too. Okay. Next item takes us to our discussion calendar. Item number 9, LoSAN update. And we have with us the Managing Director, Jason Jewell. And I imagine that Claire Grasty is going to introduce him and allow him to take over the show.
Yes, I think you did just that, but we have a presentation today about LoSAN and the very many things that have happened over the last year or so there. So here's Jason Jewell, the Managing Director.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Chair McDonald and members of the commission. Again, my name is Jason Jewell. I'm the Managing Director of the LoSAN Rail Corridor Agency, and thank you very much for the opportunity to invite me here this morning to speak before you all. I apologize for not making it the last time I was scheduled to be here a couple months ago, but I was called for jury duty, so I appreciate the opportunity this morning, and Happy New Year to you all. I'm going to provide you a presentation on the LoSAN corridor and some of the challenges that we have faced along the corridor this past year, as well as information on the LoSAN agency, some current service and ridership information, and finally highlight some successes in partnering with VCTC. I wanted to provide you just a brief history of the LoSAN agency, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It was established in 1989 as a joint powers authority by local transportation agencies along the corridor. The intent of establishing the LoSAN agency was really to foster cooperation among the various agencies along the corridor and to coordinate on and advocate for intercity passenger rail. And the Intercity Passenger Rail Act of 2012, otherwise known as SB 1225, enabled regional governance of the state-funded Pacific Surfliner service and expanded the authority of the LoSAN agency through an amendment to the existing Joint Powers Agreement. The LoSAN agency assumed full management responsibility for the Pacific Surfliner service in 2015. And SB 1225 was passed in an effort to really put control of the intercity rail services in the hands of a local agency, so the needs of the service could be addressed efficiently with locally focused oversight of the service and the corridor. And the LoSAN agency is comprised of 9 member agencies. It has an 11-member board and 4 ex officio members, which are non-voting members. After SB 1225 was signed into law, the Orange County Transportation Authority, otherwise known as OCTA, was chosen through a competitive procurement process to provide administrative services to the managing agency. And with this slide, excuse me, I wanted to provide a map
of the entire corridor and specifically focus on the 29 stations the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner service provides. I also wanted to highlight the fact that we have a 351-mile long corridor. There are 7 different right-of-way owners along the corridor, which is pretty unique for an intercity rail corridor, for a rail corridor in general. Some of those owners are public transportation agencies, while the 2 privately owned track owners are Union Pacific and BNSF. The Pacific Surfliner service has historically been the busiest state-supported Amtrak service in the nation, and it has historically been the second busiest intercity rail service in the nation, second only to the Northeast Corridor back east. This next map that I wanted to show you, it's very busy, but it overlays all of the services along the corridor. And while the Surfliner stops at 29 stations, there are actually 41 stations along the corridor, with those additional 12 being served only by commuter service. And between Amtrak long-distance services, Metrolink's array of services along the corridor, as well as coaster service down in the San Diego area, we also have connections with San Joaquin bus service up in the north part of our corridor. As you can imagine, schedule and service changes must be closely coordinated between all the stakeholders along the corridor. So now that I provided you kind of an overlay of the services and the outlay of kind of our map of our corridor and the right-of-way owners along the corridor, I wanted to dive into some historical information highlighting the importance of the corridor. Now, these are pre-pandemic 2019 statistics, but I wanted to call out that during that time frame, the corridor had over 8 million passengers, which was comprised of over 5 million in Metrolink and coaster riders combined, and we almost had 3 million riders on Amtrak Pacific Surfliner. The Surfliner was running 26 trains per day. That was 13 round trips between San Diego and Los Angeles. 10 of these trips, or 5 of those round trips, extended north of Los Angeles to Goleta, and 2 of the 5 round trips extended up to San Luis Obispo. Now, to put that in kind of comparison of where we're at today, currently we're running 10 round trips, which is between San Diego and Los Angeles, which is basically 20 train trips, and still 5 of those round trips do extend north of Los Angeles to Goleta, and also 2 of those 5 round trips extend up to San Luis Obispo. I wanted to point out some of the historical importance of the corridor as well as it relates to the U.S. Department of Defense, which has identified the corridor as part of the Strategic Rail Corridor Network, otherwise known as STRACNET, because of its access in providing key access to the Marine Corps base of Camp Pendleton, also Miramar, as well as the North Island Naval Air Station, which is a major port for the United States Navy Pacific Fleet. The northern end of the corridor is also considered a connector line under STRACNET for its ability to connect both Northern and Southern California, and also its access to Vandenberg Space Force Base. In addition to being key to our national defense, the Lausanne Corridor does play an important role in the economy, with it being the only direct access to the Port of San Diego, and also its links to the ports of LA and Long Beach. It is a vital link for goods movement along the entire corridor. And I also wanted to point out and remind everyone that during the Highway 101 closure in 2018, the Pacific Surfliner service did provide a very key link for travelers between Ventura and Santa Barbara. So as many of you are aware, I wanted to get into a little bit more of some of the very significant challenges the Lausanne Corridor has faced this past year, specifically as it relates to coastal resiliency challenges. And I wanted to put this number out there because it's pretty significant. The 251 days out of the federal fiscal year that the rail line was shut down due to landslides. This is approximately 69% of the federal fiscal year that the rail line was shut down. This had a tremendous impact on the operations of the Surfliner this past year. And I wanted to highlight kind of the 2 major things that had happened. The first started in September of 2021. at the private property of Cypress Shores in San Clemente, where they experienced erosion on the hillside of the track, which caused the track to actually move 28 inches towards the ocean. The Orange County Transportation Authority, who owns the track down in that area, did emergency stabilization work by placing about 15,000 tons of riprap to help mitigate that. But in September of 2022, high tides eroded some of the riprap, and there was some additional movement of the track. So out of abundance of caution and safety, all rail operations were suspended so a permanent fix could be implemented. So OCTA constructed ground anchors, and they placed that in the bedrock of the hillside to stop the movement. And I'll show you on the next slide there some pictures of what that looked like. This included 220 ground anchors, each about 133 feet long, into the side of the hill, into the bedrock. There were 2 rows of anchors that were put in to stabilize the hillside. And the tracks did reopen in April 17th, actually, of 2023, but only for a very short period of time, unfortunately, before another slide below the Casa Romantica property in San Clemente occurred. So moving on to this slide, I wanted to highlight this particular challenge. On April 27th, the hillside beneath the Casa Romantica Gardens and Cultural Center failed and basically had a landslide that came down and did foul the tracks, which prompted a complete rail closure. OCTA, who owns the track, worked with Metrolink, who maintains the track and the right-of-way, to build a 12-foot high soldier pile wall to protect the track, while the city of San Clemente has been working on a long-term solution to stabilize the slope, which does involve several rows of tiebacks, so they're utilizing the same stabilization effort that was used in Cypress Shores by OCTA. Now those are pictures of the, as you see in the top right there, of the soldier pile wall actually being constructed. It is fully constructed, it is in place. Happy to say that both of these solutions, both at Casa Romantica and in Cypress Shores, have been holding up. There has been no additional movements detected in those areas, which is good news. So coastal resiliency remains a top priority for the corridor. I know I focused on the challenges we faced in San Clemente, but there are also challenges in Del Mar, in which Sandag is performing repairs to stabilize the bluffs down in that area. Their plans involve installation of support columns, grade beams, tow reinforcements, seismic improvements, and drainage. So they've got a whole array of different solutions that they've been doing down in that area to stabilize the bluffs, while they're also beginning design on long-term track relocation alternatives. OCTA has initiated a study to define both short and medium-term solutions or midterm solutions to address resiliency issues along the corridor in South Orange County. They have also engaged the state in the possibility of conducting a longer-term study to look at alternative solutions, including relocation. The LOSAN agency itself is working with Union Pacific on the north end of our corridor on stabilization repairs at 5 key areas. And as you can see from the top right picture there are coastal resiliency issues identified in Rincon in the Ventura area, as well as additional areas in Santa Barbara County. And I also wanted to report that through this last round of storms, there has been additional erosion experience just within the past couple weeks, actually, near the Hollister Ranch area. The LOSAN team went out to meet with Union Pacific to assess the area, and UP is actively working on developing a plan and cost estimates for the repairs needed, but has deemed the railroad safe to operate in the meantime. On the south end, just north of Cypress Shores, I mentioned that the stabilization efforts, have been successful in preventing any more movement or erosion. However, there has been some slight erosion on the ocean side of the track, in which Metrolink has had their contractor install additional riprap to help stabilize that particular area. Now, these areas are all being constantly monitored to ensure that we can address any potential safety concerns on an ongoing basis. I also wanted to mention that the State Senate Transportation Committee has created a subcommittee on the Los San Rail Corridor resiliency, really to raise awareness, identify resilient solutions, and also investments, and to work with all of the stakeholders along the corridor to really sustain the corridor into the future. The subcommittee is chaired by Senator Blakespear, and it also includes Senators Lamone from the District 19, as well as Senators Allen, Newman, Nguyen, and Umberg. And so far, there have been 3 hearings. I have had the privilege to present at 2 of those, and the most recent one being in San Clemente last month. So moving on, diving a little deeper into our post-COVID recovery, here we see a graphical representation of our ridership historically back to 2019, also our train miles and our passenger per train mile. While we are currently running about 80% of pre-pandemic service, our ridership lately has been about 70% of pre-pandemic ridership when we compare basically straight ridership between now versus 2019. However, on a passenger per mile basis, because we are running less service, we are averaging about 84% of pre-pandemic ridership, again, when we're comparing passengers per train mile between now and 2019. So one of our main focuses over the next year and beyond is really planning on being able to reinstate pre-COVID service levels to try to get back up to those 13 round trips of where we're at pre-pandemic. So as we do focus on plans on implementing increased service levels moving forward, one of the ways we're going to be successful at doing this is partnering with our stakeholders, and I wanted to highlight some of our successes and ongoing efforts, particularly with partnering with VCTC, one of them being the X Games partnership. And as you all are familiar with, the X Games finals were held for the very first time at the Ventura County Fairgrounds back in July. The LoSAN agency partnered with the X Games, Visit Ventura, VCTC, the City of Ventura, Ventura County Coast, and Metrolink, where we did add additional train service to align with the event schedule. We also allowed the flexibility for riders to take either Metrolink or Pacific Surfliner trains. We established joint messaging and cross-promoted taking the train with our partners. And we did the very first ever branded train wrap, which I'll show you a picture of on the next slide. And it was a very successful partnership. Overall, we saw a very large increase in ridership, 482% increase to and from Ventura when we compare that weekend to the same weekend the previous year. So here's a quick picture of that X Games wrap. It's a great picture with the backdrop of the beach there. So we just wanted to highlight that. As I mentioned, it was the first ever train wrap, and we're very excited about the ability in the future to do future train wraps with vendors and be able to have the potential of generating ad revenue for the train. Okay. Another item that I wanted to highlight that we are very excited about, and it has been a very successful partnership effort, is our expanded code share pilot with Metrolink. So back in November 2023, as a pilot that is going to go through June of 2024, we expanded our code share program with Metrolink, which will allow any Metrolink or Pacific Surfliner with a valid ticket between LA and Ventura the ability to ride either service at no additional cost for the rider. We expanded the program to all Pacific Surfliner trains. Previously, it was only 2 trains in each direction, and this provides greater flexibility for all train riders. The LoSAN agency will continue to work with both Metrolink and VCTC to develop additional program improvements based on an analysis of how customers are utilizing the program between now and June of 2024. So in parallel to our coordinated efforts on providing expanding flexibility to our riders, the LoSAN agency is also coordinating on improvement projects with VCTC that will allow for future operational efficiencies and growth. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of those projects. The first is the Leesdale siding project, which involves extending the existing siding about 3,300 feet between Oxnard and Camarillo stations. And this will really eliminate the need for the trains to hold at either of those stations for train meets and reduce overall travel time. And we are looking at the possibility of extending that siding up to about the 3.7 mile mark, which would extend it up to the second track up in Oxnard by Rose Avenue. And so this is an ongoing partnership effort, as I mentioned, with VCTC. The estimated cost to completion is about $69.5 million, and the completion is pegged for about mid-2027. So lastly, the final project I wanted to highlight is the Camarillo pedestrian undercrossing, which will construct a new undercrossing to connect both platforms 1 and 2, and also add ADA improvements at the station. This project is fully funded through construction with a funding partnership between LoSAN, VCTC, and the city. The city of Camarillo is leading this project. The total project cost estimate at this time is roughly $18 million, and the completion is pegged for the end of 2026. So with that, I mean, we really do look forward to our continued partnership with Martin and the entire VCTC team as we work together to grow and improve rail services along the entire corridor. So again, thank you very much for allowing me to present before you this morning, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions or comments for the managing director? Commissioner White.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for the presentation. It was very well done. I love those pictures. They're great. And especially the X Games and how the partnership between Ventura, the Gold Coast transportation, I mean, all these people were a part of that whole success. So again, I want to thank everybody for that partnership. And then the question I have is, was there any damage up in Ventura at the high surf? Because of the high surf we had last weekend, I was riding my bike coming down, and I noticed a lot of water from the ocean coming up and over. And I just wonder if there was any damage.
Through the chair, Commissioner White, yeah, no reported damage in the Ventura area. You know, as I mentioned, Union Pacific has been closely monitoring the infrastructure. They have seen some of damage up in the Santa Barbara area, as I mentioned, particularly what they call the Surfing Cowboy location that's right by Hollister Ranch. That is the area that they do anticipate significant repairs to be needed to be done there. So as I mentioned, we're currently working with Union Pacific as they develop and basically design what those improvements need to be, and we work with them to figure out the funding and of those particular improvements. But nothing that has been reported to us, particularly in the Ventura area.
Any other questions or comments by the commissioner? Commissioner Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have the privilege of being this commission's primary representative on the Metrolink Board of Directors. So first of all, I wanted to thank you for your presentation. I thought it was excellent. I also want to thank you for the high degree of collaboration with both VCTC and Metrolink. The proof is right in the PowerPoint in terms of all of the collaborative efforts that LoSAN and Metrolink and VCTC have been able to accomplish. I think I'm very supportive of the code share program, the rail-to-rail program. I've been a beneficiary of that because I can hop on a Surfliner train or hop on a Metrolink train, and I've done that. A couple of things that I think are really noteworthy. I think the strategic importance of this line can't be understated. And particularly since you're considering it's going all the way from San Diego north up to San Luis Obispo, with also service to Vandenberg I forget the exact name of the base now, Space Force Base, anyway, with Vandenberg and the ability to serve there. The Leesdale Sighting Project is an important project, and since I'm the mayor for the city of Camarillo, I'm a big booster of the undercrossing project, so thank you for your efforts on it. But I do have a question, Mr. Chair. I'm really happy to see Losan's numbers have come back more robustly than Metrolinx in terms of passengers. And I've had the privilege of taking Surfliner down to San Diego and San Juan Capistrano and so on, both on weekends and on weekdays. And you're getting a good mix of seniors and families on it. But the question is this, are you seeing your ridership percentages change relative to the ridership mix on Losan? Could you speak to that a little bit? Because I'm sure Losan's trying to be very nimble on that, and you know, and I really appreciate my colleague and the chair's service on the Losan board. That's something that you really have to wrestle with, right? Could you speak to that a little bit of how you see that dynamic changing in terms of rider mix?
Yeah, through the chair, Commissioner Tremblay, you know, the Pacific Surfliner service has primarily, or historically and primarily, been more of a leisure travel service. So historically, we were upwards in about the 60 percentile of folks that were travelers versus your everyday commuters. You know, unlike Metrolink, who has historically focused on the commuter market, I know they are moving into more of attracting customers not only for the commuters, but also they're attracting more of the traveler public. So we've historically, as I mentioned, you know, been a traveler or leisure demographic, and that hasn't changed much. So we're still kind of in that, you know, 60 percentile, 60 to 70 percentile of travelers. We have seen a little bit of an uptick more from families as well as youth riders. So we are looking at ways that we might be able to attract you know, families to take the train, looking at maybe some incentives for families, and also looking at some possibilities for incentives for youth riders. So we are looking at what we might be able to provide there for that particular demographic. But we're still very much, you know, heavily demand on the leisure travel and the travel market, and we do see most of our demand, you know, from the Thursday through Sunday time frame.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You, Commissioner Grell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful. A lot of great things happening. Within just the last 30 days, there's been 2 Pacific Surfliner train versus auto collisions where at least one had a fatality. It seems like both of them were either in the supervisorial district I represent or just near it. That seems like a lot. It seems like a lot within a short span of time. Can you talk to safety? Can you talk to safety a little bit? Because I feel like we've had issues develop at other intersections. Our state legislative delegation has been good about bringing down money to help improve infrastructure at key intersections where we've had safety issues. Is this pattern something you're seeing in other parts of Losan's network, or is this just an unusual number here locally? And can you just speak to safety, particularly as it relates to train versus auto?
Sure. Yeah, through the chair. You know, the train strikes is a continual challenge, you know, not only for the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner service, but also Metrolink service as well. But what we have been seeing is an uptick of trespasser strikes, and we typically do see that uptick and that trend line happen around the holidays especially. But what we do see particularly in this area, you know, the Camarillo, Oxnard area, are the vehicle strikes. And most notably, as you're more than likely aware of, we had the vehicle strike with the big rig at the private crossing, and then the one that we had this week. So we have been we've started an initiative called Operation Safe Surfs, and we presented this initiative to our board of directors last year, at the end of last year. And we're currently working on this particular initiative, and what it involves is partnering with Operation Lifesaver. Operation Lifesaver is a nonprofit national rail safety education organization that works extremely closely with Amtrak. And we have done the analysis of hotspots along the corridor and where some of those trending lines are and what some of those trends are. And for the initial rollout of this program, what we will be targeting is essentially 3 major hotspots. At least for the initial rollout of this program, then we're going to be looking at potentially expanding the program. But what we're looking at doing in the 3 kind of major hotspots that we're looking at is it does involve basically Ventura County, portions of both Oxnard, Camarillo, as well as into Santa Barbara County. It also involves looking at Fullerton to the LA County line. And then the last hotspot is the Solano Beach to Oceanside area. So in particular, what we're currently working on right now with Operation Lifesaver is really developing kind of a multi-prong approach. And that approach would be basically at this time doing communications out to the public, which we're looking at doing streaming ads. I think the statistic out there is about 1/3 of households, use some type of streaming device for television, whether that would be, Netflix or any of those particular streaming providers. We're looking at doing streaming advertisements, which would be like public service announcements through those particular services. Also looking at partnering with cities and agencies to be able to provide those advertisements and those communications through their city broadcasting means. We're also looking at the kind of the second prong approach is doing suicide prevention and rail safety signage where we can, both along the right-of-way as well as at stations. And then kind of the third prong approach is doing homeless outreach, reaching out to where we know there are homeless encampments along the corridor, and there's some working with nonprofit organizations that can get out there and actually give them some information, give them a pamphlet, teach them a little bit about rail safety and what it means, and also, be able to, really try to give them some pieces of information that they can utilize. Part of that is also looking at the ability to do some geofencing safety messages on mobile devices. The majority that we found in working with some of the nonprofits, the majority of homeless folks do actually have cell phones. And so utilizing the mobile devices to be able to do some geofencing messaging to where if somebody does step into the right-of-way and they may not be aware of it, an alert could go off on their phone. It could send them some type of emergency messaging. So we're looking at kind of all of those opportunities to be able to do those things. And like I mentioned, the first step is that we're currently working on is developing these advertising and communication messages that will go out, and working with Operation Lifesaver, who is going to be also helping us reach out to all the various agencies and entities to be able to coordinate on those particular communications. And at the same time, working on signage and messaging that we would be able to put out at various locations. So this is kind of, as I mentioned, a multi-prong project and program, and we are looking to roll this out over the coming months. That's one opportunity that I think we're hopeful that we'll get some positive results and be able to measure those results. But I think there's probably some other opportunities to also work with Union Pacific and also our Amtrak team to see if there's any other opportunities to provide, education and possibly information to folks along the corridor as far as safety messaging, looking at opportunities to maybe provide safety education, especially at crossings. Maybe there's some opportunities at these private crossings to work with those property owners to provide some type of, grade or crossing education, safety measure training, those types of opportunities. So we're going to be looking at those possibilities just to see if there's any opportunities to get out there and provide kind of that hands-on, grade crossing training to those individuals that might be able to be, might be able to be help in that area. So,
Thank you for that, appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from Commissioner Broggie?
Am I on now?
Yes.
Okay. I just had a question with regard to the rail-to-rail program, and I'm just looking at it. We're talking about Lawson Amtrak, Metrolink, with passes to ride the Pacific Surfliner, and then the code share trains, which are select trains that accept any valid Metrolink ticket type. My specific question is, this sounds, how simple is it for the average person to go to the website or wherever to purchase a ticket and know what they're actually getting, and how do they navigate that? I mean, is it a simple enough process, do you think? And I know that the goal, VCTC, all of us, is to get more people out there in public transportation. And I can see if it gets convoluted, people have to spend too much time figuring out how to get where they want to go and what the options are. It would get frustrating. For me, it would.
yeah, through the chair, Commissioner Broggie. I think we do a pretty good job, and so does Metrolink, as providing information online about the code share program and the ability to be able to utilize either the Metrolink pass or the Pacific Surfliner pass on the reciprocity trains. So I think we do a pretty good job at getting that information out there. And also integrating the train schedules. So like when you look at the train schedules online, for instance, Metrolink's train schedules, you'll actually see Pacific Surfliner trains within that schedule and information there saying, if you utilize the code share program, you can basically, take that Pacific Surfliner train. I always feel there's always an opportunity to improve and to get out more communication and marketing around these programs. So I feel that we should and we will look at any opportunities to get out better communication and marketing around that. And I think by doing those things, we will hopefully see a higher utilization of the program. But I always feel like there's always always an opportunity to get out more information and better information, get the word out to make sure that people are aware that they can have the flexibility and utilize either of the services.
Yeah, thank you. It seems like the more options you provide the public, then the more convoluted it gets to. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of in a catch-22 there. So, but I appreciate that, and hopefully I'm going to go home and see if I can figure it out online. Thank you.
Commissioner White. I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson. Even with the mask, I got you confused. I apologize.
Thank you so much. And following up on Commissioner Broggie's comments, have you intentionally worked through the process of ticketing, and especially with the code share, for how it works for a passenger that uses a wheelchair?
Yeah, through the chair. As far as my understanding is, the ticketing for that is not any different. Specific to the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner trains, the ticketing itself, or the ticket itself, isn't any different. However, during the purchasing of the ticket process, for instance, if someone was purchasing the ticket on the app, there is the ability to select if you need some type of assistance. So there's actually a little box and questionnaire, or drop down, I should say, that allows someone to request ADA assistance if needed. And what that does, that alerts the Amtrak team to basically do a meet and assist with that ticketed customer. So that is part of the actual Amtrak Pacific Surfliner ticketing process. I can't speak to how the Metrolink side of the ticketing process works, but we can look into that and get back to you.
Any other questions or comments? No? Thank you very much for the presentation. Commissioner White and I are the VCTC representatives to LoSAT. So if there's additional questions in the future, feel free to reach out to us. And I will make a generalization. As an elected, I think a lot of us attend a lot of things other than just our regular weekly meetings. And I tend to travel a lot because of the particular circles I'm in. So it's not unusual for me to have meetings anywhere from San Diego to Monterey. And any chance I have the opportunity to take the train to get there, usually the Losan service, I'm on the train, and that's the way I travel. It's much more convenient. And not to be disrespectful to Commissioner Tremblay, but wearing my Losan hat, our trains are much more comfortable than the Metrolink trains. Metrolink
Wait until you
is
see the new
commuter-
ones we've rolled out, the new rail cars. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Metrolink's commuter-oriented, they get you there quickly, and they do an excellent job, but if you want to travel in style, Losan is the way to go. So, thank you very much for the report, sir, and hope you have safe travels on your way back.
Mr. Chair, can I get equal? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, go ahead. Do you want,
I
if you
was
want
just-
equal time for
No, I was
rebuttal,
just
feel
kidding.
free.
Mr. Chair, we're just glad you're not riding that motorcycle anymore.
Okay, that takes us to item number 10, Santa Paula Branch Line monthly updates. And Ms. Fagan.
Mr. Chair, before Amanda starts, I just wanted to recognize her work on the branch line and so many other issues, important issues at VCTC. You know, I'm very grateful for everyone on my team, but the last few months, especially Amanda and her team, working through some of these challenges in the branch line, and some will continue in the future, has really done an extraordinary amount of work, and under some tight deadlines, and and I'm just grateful for her and her team for assisting in this, and hopefully, I think, setting a new chapter going forward with our relations with the branch line and the opportunities it can bring to the Heritage Valley, and continuing to work through the challenges we have left. So, sorry
Excellent.
to
I
interrupt you,
will
Amanda.
echo those comments, and Ms. Fagan is our gain and the Navy's loss, as she came over to us, and from them, they trained her well, but she's doing an excellent job here. So, Ms. Fagan, it's your turn now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Martin, for those kind words. For the record, my name is Amanda Fagan, and I serve as the Director of Planning and Sustainability here at VCTC. I will do my best to keep this report short and sweet, with a focus on just those most recent activities from the month of December. On the administrative action side, VCTC staff continues to process rights of entry permits, lease reassignments, crossing agreements, and utility license agreements. We do plan to bring back the right of entry permit process to the Commission either in February or March, so you will see that again soon. On the trail planning front, VCTC released the request for proposals for the Santa Paula Branch Line Trail Master Plan Update and EIR-EIS, and we held a virtual pre-proposal conference on December 14th. That virtual meeting was well attended by a number of different firms from across the state and beyond. The deadline for questions was December 22nd, and we did receive several questions, so we've posted the answers to the questions that we received from the consulting firms on January 3rd. On December 4th, VCTC and Sierra Northern completed execution of Amendment Number 1, which was, of course, approved by the Commission at the last meeting, that amendment to the Railroad Lease and Operations Agreement. The purpose of the amendment was to facilitate movement of stored rail cars away from a rural residential neighborhood located west of Fillmore. and to refine the definition of rail car storage and also the allowable locations moving forward. On December 18th, Sierra Northern relocated the rail cars to the designated new storage location. Sierra Northern briefly used the Santa Paula Rail Yard as a staging location while moving the stored cars to their new location west of 7th Street and Baldwin Avenue. The rail bike turnaround was also relocated to an area near South Largo Lane due to its displacement by the relocated stored rail cars. And that seemed so quiet and simple, but as you all know, it was a year's worth of work to get to that point. So I'll just pause there for a moment and say they moved the cars on December 18th. So again, to give you a sense of the ongoing and upcoming administrative and program management tasks for the branch line, this slide contains my updated running to-do list. Of particular note, VCTC staff continues to work with the County of Ventura on the broadband utility license agreement. We understand that that agreement will be considered by the Board of Supervisors sometime this month, and we will bring that agreement to this commission for approval after board consideration as early as next month. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, and I will just say kudos to the VCTC board members that worked on the negotiating committee, along with staff and Sierra Northern Railway staff for their efforts on this. So I think it was an excellent collaborative effort on both sides. So any questions or comments for Ms. Fagan? Commissioner Long.
Thank you. I really just want to state my appreciation to staff, to Martin, to everybody that got this done. I was very excited to even hear that it got moved so quick, December 18th. That's amazing. And I know the residents really appreciate it and just want to say thank you so much. It's those little things that really just make people get upset. And to be able to fix that, it took longer than just a couple days. So thank you so much. And to the commission, again, thank you very much for passing that amendment. Really appreciate it.
Hey, any other comments from Ms. Fagan? Commissioner Broggie.
I just want to personally thank Amanda for the work she put in helping the community of Fillmore, specifically with regard to those rail cars that were stored there, and the patience that you demonstrated dealing with this ongoing issue. It's just phenomenal. Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you.
And on behalf of the community as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? No? Seeing none, thank you very much. Takes us to item number 11, Santa Paula Branch Line Sespe Creek Overflow Railroad Bridge Plans, Design and Cost Estimate. Ms. Fagan.
All right. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the commission. Again, for the record, I'm Amanda Fagan, Director of Planning here at VCTC. I'll start with just a bit of background on the Santa Paula Branch Line, not so much for the commission's benefit, but for anyone visiting us here in the audience again, because I know you're all very familiar with this. And then I'll also share an update on the current status of the bridge repair efforts for the Sespe Creek Overflow Railroad Bridge. The Santa Paula Branch Line is a 32-mile multimodal corridor with 29 miles of serviceable track used for rail services that include freight, tourist and excursion, television and film production, and rail car storage. This short-line railroad connects to the main line, Union Pacific, at East Ventura Montalvo Station in the city of Ventura, and continues through the cities of Santa Paula and Fillmore to the unincorporated Piru community. The Santa Paula Branch Line was originally constructed by Southern Pacific Railroad in 1887 and acquired by VCTC in 1995. In 2001, VCTC entered a 20-year operating lease with Fillmore and Western Railway that expired in June 2021. The commission approved an agreement with Sierra Northern Railway on December 16, 2021, and since January of 2022, Sierra Northern has been responsible for operating and maintaining the Santa Paula Branch Line. Sierra Northern operates and maintains the railroad tracks and the right-of-way and provides freight and film services. Tourist and excursion service are provided through the cooperation of the sister company Mendocino Railway. In the interest of time, I will not dwell on the history and operations of the Santa Paula branch line, but for anyone who's interested in learning more, you can visit our website at goventura.org/SPBL. This page does share information on rail safety and access, rail car storage, trail planning, and rail bike operations. A GIS web map also shows the VCTC-owned railroad parcels. The Sespe Creek Overflow Railroad Bridge is located at approximately milepost 423.44, which is west of Fillmore. The bridge was constructed in 1969 and has a total length of 450 feet, consisting of 15 spans at 29 feet 10 inches each. This aerial image shows the location of the Sespe Creek Overflow Bridge just west of Fillmore and alongside Old Telegraph Road. Almost exactly 1 year ago, you will likely recall that California and the Ventura County area were affected by a series of serious atmospheric reverse storms. Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency on January 4th, 2023, related to these severe winter storms and the subsequent flooding and damage. Then on January 14th, the President of the United States also issued a disaster declaration for the California severe winter storms, flooding, landslides, and mudslides that included Ventura County. On January 10th, heavy rainfall from a series of storms led to flooding in the Sespe Creek, which resulted in the washout of 3 spans of the Sespe Creek Overflow Railroad Bridge, totaling approximately 90 feet on the westerly section of the bridge. The track and rail cars are currently suspended between abutment 1 and bent 4. Reconstruction of the impacted bridge section is necessary to resume safe rail operations. The bridge washout disconnected the eastern approximately 1/3 of the Santa Paula branch line from the main line, which includes the Fillmore Rail Yard and the city of Fillmore, where tourist and excursion rail service and television and film production have traditionally been important to the local economy and to the community's identity. Freight rail customers, both current and potential future customers, have also been disconnected from the remainder of the branch line and the mainline railroad. This slide includes a few representative photos of some of the damage to the bridge structures, and it also shows the volume of water that was present in the Sespe Creek overflow during and after the storms. To repair the bridge, VCTC elected to follow a 2-phased process. Phase 1 focuses on compliance with applicable state and federal environmental laws and permitting requirements, design and construction to restore the pre-disaster design capacity and function of the railroad bridge, and to consider cost-effective mitigations to prevent future hazards. After a competitive selection process, VCTC executed a contract with RailPros Incorporated in June of 2023 to conduct the design, engineering, and permitting phase of the project. The focus of the design and engineering process is, as always, to ensure safe and resilient bridge reconstruction that minimizes impacts to the environment and to the community. Since the contract was executed in June, the RailPros team has been very busy with fieldwork, analysis, alternatives evaluation, and bridge design. On November 1st, we received and began review of the 90% design package. Review was conducted in coordination with Sierra Northern Railway and also with the assistance of the County of Ventura, for which we are very grateful. The design package includes a cultural resources memorandum, hydrological and geotechnical reports, bridge design and repair specifications, and a construction cost estimate. These reports and design package are all included in the agenda package for today's commission meeting. The bridge repairs plans are designed to be modular and replicable, such that repairs and reconstruction for the remainder of the bridge could be completed as needed and as funding becomes available. 3 design alternatives were considered: Alternative 1 was selected as the recommended design based on the geotechnical and hydrological report findings, technical feasibility, risk reduction, and in compliance with applicable laws and regulations. The selected alternative includes erosion protection along the west bank, including the new abutment. The design includes 2 new bents, 2 new pier caps, 2 new 49-foot spans, a new abutment and wing walls, and erosion protection. The new bents will be parallel to the flow of water, and each bent is comprised of 2 cast-in drilled hole 6-foot diameter piles. The new piers, abutment, and wing walls will be cast-in-place concrete. By lengthening 2 spans to 49 feet, rather than matching the existing span lengths of 30 feet, an intermediate bent or pier is eliminated, and that results in quicker construction and reduced cost. Because there's 1 less pier in the channel, the hydraulics of the bridge are not negatively impacted, and the design provides risk mitigation for future flood events. Our project manager from RailPros, Julina Corona, is here today with us and can help answer any of the technical questions on the planning and design phase of the project. Also, as described in the staff report, I'll share just a brief review of the different parts of the design package. The bridge design includes survey control sheets, track design, and structural design sheets and calculations. Comments have been received from the County of Ventura and Sierra Northern Railway and have been incorporated into the final designs to address the suggested edits. With regard to cultural resources, the preliminary historical evaluation technical memorandum provides an evaluation of the historical significance of the Sespe Creek Overflow Bridge, which is required under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. The technical memorandum concludes that the bridge, which was constructed in 1969, lacks historical and engineering significance and integrity, and is not recommended as eligible for listing in the National Registry of Historic Places. The memorandum recommends a finding of no historic properties affected for the bridge project under Section 106 and concludes that there are no further management recommendations needed. One notable piece of the report that I know I enjoyed reading and I think you might find of interest is a discussion on the historic relationship between the city of Fillmore and the railroad. The report notes that Fillmore was actually established by Southern Pacific Railroad, and the town was named for the company's general superintendent, Jerome Fillmore. The train depot had become the center of the Fillmore community, bringing new settlers who began then planting orchards and crops, and agriculture became a leading industry throughout the community. The geotechnical report found that the site is suitable for the proposed project to reconstruct the damaged portion of the bridge and concludes that the primary geotechnical considerations at the site include large seismic ground motions, potential liquefaction of loose soils present below the historically highest groundwater levels, scour potential at the abutment locations, and heavy loading of the bridge structure. The proposed bridge spans at the western end of the bridge, and the abutment can be supported on deep pile foundations. The results of this report and its design recommendations were developed in accordance with applicable standards and are incorporated into the bridge design. The hydraulics report includes hydraulic design standards and criteria, hydrologic and hydraulic assessments, bridge scour analysis, and scour countermeasures for the repair of the bridge. The findings of the report are incorporated into the bridge design. Notably, the hydraulics report found substantial scour depths with a total estimated scour depth of 32.1 feet at the abutment and 24.4 feet at the piers. Scour countermeasures are recommended and included in the bridge design. Preliminary cost estimates to repair the bridge in the early days of the damage ranged from about $1.4 to $2.3 million. However, after the geotechnical and hydrological evaluation of the post-disaster site conditions And based on the results of the design process and current market conditions, the construction cost estimate is approximately $7.1 million. Estimated total cost to repair the bridge, including the design, agency oversight, permit fees, and operator costs, are approximately $12.3 million. So obviously substantially higher than we had originally had expected. However, the alternatives that were considered, including an in-kind replacement, actually had higher, substantially higher cost estimates than the alternative selected. Environmental review and permitting is also still underway. We recorded a California Environmental Quality Act notice of exemption on August 24th of 2023. The 35-day statute of limitations to challenge VCTC's determination that the project is exempt from CEQA expired on September 28th, with no challenges having been filed or received. With regard to stormwater pollution prevention permitting, the project, we believe, qualifies for the rainfall erosivity waiver, which waives a full stormwater pollution prevention plan. Though the project will still include a list of best management practices for reference in the permit applications. VCTC has also been advised by the Watershed Protection District that a permit is not required from the Watershed Protection District. Finally, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permitting process is in progress, with the aforementioned National Historic Preservation Act Section 106 compliance memo having already been completed. On November 3rd of 2023, we released a request for proposals to provide construction management services for the bridge repair project. The scope of work includes professional engineering services for management of a construction contract, including engineering inspection, environmental support, materials testing, and surveying. The deadline to submit construction management proposals was on December 22nd. I'm happy to report that we did receive 3 proposals. We've assembled a selection panel of VCTC, County of Ventura, and also sister agency staff to review the proposals. And we do anticipate returning to the commission in February with a recommended selection and request for your approval to execute a contract with the construction management firm at the February meeting. So this current projected schedule would sequence as shown on the slide and as further described in the staff report. And we also intend, or at this time, plan to return to the commission with a request to release the invitation for bids at the March meeting. So before I finish, I'll just mention that we are continuing to work with our FEMA Project Delivery Program Manager and support personnel over at FEMA and Cal OES to prepare the request for public assistance for the CESB bridge repair, as well as the debris removal and the other repair rail repair projects that have already been completed. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And again, Julina is here from Rail Pros to assist with the questions.
Hey, the commissioners have any questions or comments for Ms. Fagan or the engineer? Commissioner Long.
Thank you very much. And just if you could remind me, for the FEMA dollars, are we getting 100% or is it 80? Where is that? And I think that's important for us to know.
So my understanding is that we are eligible for the 100%, but that's with the contribution also from Cal OES, so it's a combination of sources there. And we are still working through that process in collaboration with our FEMA project managers. The goal, their recommendation was to finish the debris removal project first, and then we'll next work on finalizing the smaller rail repair projects. That there were 2 in the neighborhood of $80,000 repairs that were not debris removal and were also not the CESB bridge repair. So we're finishing that debris removal. I actually finished my portion of it in December, and then we'll next be working with them on the CESB bridge piece. So I think that the way I understand it is we are eligible for the 100 with the contribution from Cal OES.
That's great. And so I just wanted to make sure. And is there any time frame that we have to hold true too?
So there is a deadline, July 31st, for completion of work, but we will be needing to request an extension.
Okay.
And we've already talked with FEMA about that and Cal OES.
Okay, wonderful, because I remember you stating that the building of this bridge is dependent on weather and so forth. And so I wanted to make sure that that contingency is built in to make sure that we are ensured the funding versus, oh, you missed the deadline, sorry.
Yeah, we definitely are aware of and paying attention to the deadlines. And we will need to request an extension. I don't think we're going to have the bridge done by July 31st. I think it will be more in the August-September timeframe. But we will be able to request an extension it's through Cal OES to FEMA.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate even more that we did the amendment for the contract now that you're saying even later date. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Amanda, thank you for an excellent presentation. I guess if we had been here maybe even 2 years ago, can you imagine the amount of time that you've spent and staff has spent on the Santa Paula branch line? And I really want to thank you for your Herculean efforts and all the staff for your efforts on this. With some trepidation, though, I did want to ask one question, which might be better going to Jelena and Rail Pros. Having represented wastewater plants adjacent to waterways where there's been significant flooding and scour, up in Santa Barbara County, for example, I noticed that from a scour potential for scouring, I really noticed that 32-foot at abutment potential. And so please forgive me because I'm just the lawyer, I'm not an engineer, but you mentioned scour countermeasures. Could you just give us a 30-second dissertation on what those countermeasures would be, because we really want this to hold? So forgive me for an engineering question. I'm down in the weeds.
And as a planner who never thought I would oversee a construction contract for a bridge repair, I appreciate having our technical experts here to help me with this question.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. Jelena Corona, and Amanda's introduced me. I'm with Rail Pros. I'm the design project manager. I'm hoping I'm answering your question, and your question was regarding the countermeasures.
Yeah, what are the countermeasures? Since there appears to be such a high scour potential, actuality as well as potential, I just want to know in layman's terms. So forgive me because you're just talking to a lawyer, not an engineer. What do you do? What are those countermeasures?
So we considered two countermeasures. One would be incorporated into the actual structural design of the repair, and the other one would be on the creek bed. The latter one, the second one, it has a very large footprint. So for an environmental perspective, also not very feasible. And so it is built into the structural design of the repair, and essentially the foundation has been designed so, assuming that the scour will happen, the complete total 24 feet at the piers and 32 approximately feet at the abutment will occur, and the bridge will still be meeting design requirements.
Okay, just one follow-up question. From a 404 permitting standpoint, Army Corps and CDFW are okay with that, the way we've gone ahead with that scour countermeasure?
Would you like me to? So we are actually just, we're transitioning into those permits now. So we haven't received feedback, but our environmental lead is recommended that is the better approach, anything to reduce the environmental footprint, and that is essentially what we're doing by including it in the design.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You good, sir? I guess so. Commissioner Crosswhite.
Do we have any indication on how long they think it'll take to get our 404 permit? Because I know of another project that's been waiting quite some time, and so just looking at our timelines in FEMA, I was just curious what we think the timeline might be, and if we've let them know that we have a deadline for finishing construction.
For the 404 permit, we anticipate that because of the emergency nature that we would be able to obtain that pretty quickly. There is a gap between the 404 and the 401, which is at minimum 90 days approximately, I believe. So we would be right at, the time that we would be right before construction when we need it. The team is flexible in the environmental clearance and permitting approach, so we are still willing to or ready to change the approach if necessary. There's still the option of an RGP 63, which we decided in the beginning that wouldn't be the best one for the project.
All right, thanks. I was just concerned about the timeline, given that I know that permit can take a while to get.
Commissioner Engler.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Amanda, for the work that you've done in this presentation and your staff. Thank you very much. It's very illuminating. I think my questions really are, the repair is being well designed and handled by Rail Pros. During your investigation of the entire bridge, how vulnerable are some of the other piers and the other areas?
So just prior to the storms and the damage, the bridge was inspected, and then after the after the damage was completed, it's been inspected by 3 different engineering teams, and the primary damage and vulnerabilities were to that western portion of the bridge because the channel basically cut a new, the river cut a new channel there on the western side, and that does seem to be where the focus of the vulnerabilities are. There are other recommendations for the remainder of the bridge. The repairs were more minor and were on the scale of something that Sierra Northern could take care of, things like debris removal at the bents, at the different piers and that sort of thing. So there's likely more work to be done on the bridge in the future, but they were not as significant as the western damage.
My worry really is that we're going to have a great repaired section, but how much do we need to plan for the rest of that bridge?
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Erickson.
Sorry, I just had one follow-up comment, and just in placing this bridge repair in the larger context of infrastructure repair and the need for infrastructure repair, having talked with Director Roberts, the damage to the 33 in this area, I just want to reemphasize how much damage this storm did in not just this area, but as you know, throughout the state, and also to underscore this bridge, 50, 60 years old. A lot of the rail infrastructure is 100 years old in some cases, along this line, and even older. So I say that only to remind the Commission that infrastructure repair, whether it's bridges, roads, our critical transportation needs, is sorely, funding for that is sorely needed. And we're talking about this today because we had this atmospheric storm, maybe a 100-year storm, whatever it was, but it doesn't mean that there aren't several, maybe even dozens of other, needed repairs throughout our county at this level that we're not dealing with right now because it's not an emergency. So, and the costs and the rebuilding to current standards of something that's very old, in some cases 50 or in other cases 100 years old, is significant. So, just wanted to end on that cheery note.
Hey, any other comments? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you very much. Takes us to item number 12, Metrolink vacancy for alternate board member. Commissioner Chavez, due to work restraints, is unable to continue on in that position. So, Mr. Erickson?
So we are seeking a new Metrolink alternate, and Transit Director Grasty had prepared a memo for me for this. Having served previously as the Transit Director, I feel still very strongly attached to Metrolink in many, in many respects. I had shared a memo with the whole Commission last month about the duties that this position requires. As you know, Commissioner Tremblay is the primary member at Metrolink, and this position would be serving mainly if he was unable to attend a meeting, although the position can also attend the different meetings as needed. So, Chair McDonald, I would just turn it over to the Commission to appoint a new alternate member.
And I just want to note there is an error in the staff report that says that the board meetings are held on the third Friday of the month. They're actually the fourth Friday of the month, and the committee meetings are, in fact, on the second Friday, as noted.
Okay. And when I read this, I was kind of hoping there would be some comment in there somewhere about maybe someone that might be interested, but I'm not seeing much.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Tremblay?
First of all, I'm really indebted to Ms. Grasty because I was going to show up on the third Friday rather than the fourth. And I realize we have not had a rail-centric meeting today. But I want to tell the Commission it really is a privilege to sit on the Metrolink board, and this is it's a very good board, and the work is important. I was going to make a motion, if I could. I was kind of hoping that Commissioner Engler might be willing to step up and become the alternate. And by the way, there are 3 committee meetings, and usually our alternate has attended at least one of the committee meetings. Mr. Chavez has attended Audit and Finance in the past, but that's always, we can always work that out. Anyway, I was going to hope that Mr. Engler would do it, and I would be happy to make a motion to appoint Commissioner Engler.
Mr. Engler, your thoughts?
Well, thank you for the kind mention, Tony. Appreciate that. I have been talking to Mr. Anderson over here about that possibility. I'm more than happy to be the alternate to it. My only hesitation, as I mentioned earlier in our conversations, is that Thousand Oaks does not have rail. As much as we would love to have rail in Thousand Oaks, basically the city of Thousand Oaks does not have a dog in this fight, so to speak. However, we do have a lot of our citizens who go over to Moore Park, go down to Camarillo, and use the rail, including myself, which is it's a great way to get downtown, out to Burbank Airport, those sorts of areas. So, given that, I'd be happy to be the alternate and help out with bringing our viewpoints to the board.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chair. If I
Sure.
can, I think Commissioner Engler would make a wonderful alternate member on Metrolink, so I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Well, I'm laughing because never have I ever heard anybody say, I think he'd be terrible, but I'm going to suggest it anyway. But and procedurally, is this something that requires a vote of the commission, or do I just say make it so?
It does require a vote of the commission.
I'm sorry?
It does
Okay.
require a vote of the commission.
Okay, so we have a motion and I will second that motion. And then, Madam Clerk, if we can have a vote, please.
Just for clarification, we have a motion from Commissioner Tremblay
Yes,
and seconded by Chair McDonald.
yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Broggie? Commissioner Crosswhite?
Yes.
Commissioner Enegren?
Yes.
Commissioner Engler?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorel?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Judge?
Yes.
Commissioner Long? Commissioner Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner McQueen-Lejean?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Tremblay? Commissioner White?
Yes.
Vice Chair Levier? Chair McDonald?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Engler, thank you very much for stepping up, and I think you will be an excellent alternate. And I can't speak to that particular board, but I know Commissioner White and I usually always attend the LoSAN board meetings, either virtually or in person, so feel free to attend as many as you like. Thank you all. Okay, that takes us to, I don't know where it takes us, I can't see what I'm reading here. General counsel reports.
Nothing to report today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, takes us to agency reports. Southern California Association of Governments, Commissioner Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday's regional council meeting, we approved $35 million in competitive grant funding to support the regional utilities supporting housing pilot programs. It's another thing SCAG has given out money they've acquired from the state and federal governments. So again, if you need any help getting any of these grants, if you see anything on there that VCTC would be interested in, feel free to let me know, and I'll make sure I can push it from my end. That's about it. Thank you. Oh, we also had a great, should mention, we did have an in-depth explanation from Edison about the plans for electrification of the state by 2045. It was very comprehensive, and you know, if it comes to pass, it'll work, and we'll see. We also had a great presentation from a hydrogen fuel company talking about putting hydrogen fuel hubs all up and down the coast of California through the Central Valley. So again, great plan, and as long as they can find the funding for it and get the money, I'm hoping it works out, because I think the hydrogen would be the best way to go for our future. And that's about it for the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Southern California Regional Rail Authority,
Thank you,
Commissioner Engler. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Tremblay.
No, Commissioner Engler can do it.
I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I find it so distressing that we've had so little discussion on rail issues during this meeting. And I had about a 10-minute, no, I'm kidding, present. But I think I will just merely say that I appreciate all of the staff's work on Santa Paula Branch line. And I know it has nothing to do with Metrolink per se, but I think our staff has just been excellent on rail issues. And I won't go any further than that. I'll defer a Metrolink report until next month. I note that there is and I will speak with Commissioner Engler about it, there is a board workshop coming up in Ontario, California, not Ontario, Canada, Ontario, California later this month. So I'll look forward to reporting back on that. Thank you, and thank you for spending so much time on rail issues. I think this should be known in the minutes as the rail-centric meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Next one is LoSAN. Managing Director Jewel stole all my thunder and then slid out early, so I don't have a report. And then finally, that takes us to Coast Rail Coordinating Council. I don't have a report for that either. California Association of Council of Governments, CalCog. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I had the pleasure of attending our annual board retreat last month. It was in Riverside. We had a great time. It was a great opportunity to meet my colleagues from across the state. As you can imagine, you know, coming up with legislative priorities that suit agencies and jurisdictions of all sizes takes some diplomacy, but I think we're making great progress. We will be having our conference on February 7th, 8th, and 9th in Monterey, our annual conference. I'm looking forward to it. I understand it's always fantastic. This year, part of it will be happening at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And I wanted to remind all my colleagues on this commission that you are all welcome as well. February 7th, 8th, and 9th, CalCog. It'd be great to see some of my colleagues there. Thank you.
Thank you. California Vanpool Authority, Commissioner White.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to attend a meeting in Visalia last month. It was meeting with not only the rest of the board, but also all the drivers a lot of the drivers that provide transportation with Calavan. So I was excited to meet them, and it was a great meeting. We also have a annual short-term, long-term goal meeting in Sacramento next month. The exciting thing, of course, is the transformation from our vehicles to EV vehicles. So we'll be doing a lot of that this next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing nothing else on the agenda for the good of the order, we will adjourn to 9 a.m. Friday, February 2nd. They tell me it will be at the Camarillo Library, but I've heard that before, so it will probably be TBD, to be determined, but we will let you all know. Thank you all for your presence this morning, your participation, and be safe in your travels. Yes, sir.